Oh, with Pirates of the Caribbean out of the way, I figure I'd talk about something I like. Um, I did like parts of Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think it's high time I talked about something that I watched as a kid, and I can continue to watch as an adult. I mean, it really just has that well, a that much of a lasting impact, and b that wide of an appeal. I mean, these and of course the franchises that I am talking about is the Harry Potter franchise, which has since become, if I'm not mistaken, the one of, if not the most, one of, if not the highest grossing film franchises of all time. These books have become a big hit with readers of all ages, um, and it's really kind of hard to ignore Harry Potter. So So basically, I figure I just preface this by saying that I have read the books, and I am fairly familiar with the lore behind the stories. But oddly enough, when I first saw the first movie in the theater, I had not read any of the books. I I just I just went to see. I don't know. It looked okay because basically what happened was I wanted to see a fun movie, and at the time, The Lord of the Rings was too intense. So basically, my parents said you can go see Harry Potter. So I went, and basically after seeing it, I basically said to myself, this I have to read these books. So I did, and I definitely got the wide appeal. These books have have unforgettable characters. They have a sweeping story. They have they have an interesting world on which to build, and yeah, they are just a an easily accessible fantasy series for basically anyone who wants to get invested in them. I mean, there are people who, with other fantasy authors like R.A. Salvatore and J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, there are people who take issue with those kinds of authors. Like Tolkien, he's I mean, they can't really get into his very complex writing style. C.S. Lewis, maybe they don't really like the biblical undertones. Um, but with Harry Potter, granted, there are some people who say that Harry Potter promotes the devil in in basically embracing witchcraft. Personally, I think that's reading a little too deep into it, because wizardry has been around in fiction basically since the inception of fiction. Um, so I basically made the conscious decision, or no, not the unconscious decision to basically embrace these movies just for what they were. Not really, not really reading too much into it. And that was a decision I made as a kid. But now I can actually go back and watch these movies and really appreciate what they got right. Not just in terms of fantasy stories, but also children's storytelling. Richard Roper, who I fully acknowledge is not Gene Siskel, but I can still agree with Richard. I can still listen to Richard Roper's opinion here and there. Um, he actually called this in his segment on Ebert and Roper. He basically called this the this generation's Wizard of Oz, I believe. And honestly, I don't really think that's too much of an understatement, because Wizard of Oz, I think, has that same. I think it's that same type of appeal where it's intended as an innocent children's story, but it turns out to reach an age range well beyond what it was intended. I mean, Wizard of Oz is widely regarded as one of the best movies ever made, and for a children's film to attain that level of fame and popularity is really some. There's really something to be said for the material. So without further ado, I better start with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or as it's called in the U.S., Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Um, Now, since it was conceived and written in England, I'm just going to call it the Philosopher's Stone. Um, Basically, Harry Potter is seemingly this average kid who lives under the roof of his neglectful aunt and uncle, and one day they the family is visited by by a giant known as Rubius Hagrid, and basically Hagrid says to Harry, "You are a wizard. Your parents were wizards, but they were killed by this evil wizard when you were a baby, and the evil wizard was named Voldemort. And I've come to give you the option of leaving your neglectful surrogate family and coming with me to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where we will teach you to hone your magical powers and and um, and introduce you to the world of witches and wizards, which is completely separate from the world of non-magic people." So Harry accepts, and on the way he meets a lot of colorful characters like his two best friends, Ron and Hermione, and a lot of very colorful Hogwarts staff like Severus Snape and the headmaster Albus Dumbledore. So yeah, that's the basic premise, and at the risk of giving too much away, that's really all I will say, because I think that's all that really needs saying. I mean, basically Harry Potter has become so ingrained in our culture that I think everyone basically knows the story, or knows the basic premise at least. So right off the bat, the three main kids, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, and Emma Watson, are all very, very good. They are well beyond. They honestly give performances well beyond a lot of other child actors, especially nowadays. Um, and what I think has helped this series endure. There are a lot of things that has helped this series endure for so long, but what I really think helps get this one off the ground is the very visible chemistry that these three kids have with each other. Not only do these three young actors fit the roles perfectly, but the chemistry that they share, and the real genuine bond that they form over the course of the movie is very appealing, and I think that's part of what makes them so likable. And speaking of these young actors, what I think really helps this movie, one of the things that I think really helps this movie is the cast. This movie has one heck of a cast, because you have Robbie Coltrane as Hagrid, Richard Harris as Dumbledore, the headmaster, Maggie Smith as Professor McGonagall, Alan Rickman as Snape. Let's see who else. Richard Griffiths and Fiona Shaw as the aunt and uncle. You have this amazing cast, and they really do help lend plenty of gravitas to the movie. And in lesser hands, this could have easily just been written off as just a silly fantasy flick that never got anywhere. But I think, but one of the things, like I said, that really helps it is the actors who are working with this material. And it's not bad material, but in lesser hands, it could have been very silly. But these actors, with these actors working on it, you really believe that you are living in this magical world. And what I think also helps is that these actors, these older, more experienced actors like Richard Harris and Alan Rickman, the film never really lets them overshadow the kids. The kids are constantly at the forefront. And this kind of goes back to the chemistry and the talent that these three kids have. It's very impressive that the movie can get them to hold their own against these great actors. And it is appropriate for these kids to be at the forefront because they are the stars, they are the main characters. And for them to be able to carry a movie with star power like this, and John Hurt, that's another one. For them to be able to carry a movie with this kind of cast is really something to behold, and I think that's a real credit to whoever was responsible for casting these kids, whether it was one person or several people. And yeah, I just think there are really no bad performances here because, like I said, the three kids are great. Maggie Smith apparently was handpicked by J.K. Rowling to play Professor McGonagall. And she fits into the role nicely. I mean, she's very she seems to find that right balance of stern yet I'm trying to think of a word. Stern yet not too stern. Not to where it becomes distracting. So she's very good. Alan Rickman is very good, and I think it was a real benefit that they cast Alan Rickman as this mysterious character. Apparently, their first choice was Tim Roth. Now, Tim Roth, I really like Tim Roth as an actor, but he apparently turned this movie down in lieu of participating in Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. I bet you he's kicking himself right now. But I think Alan Rickman is a better choice, honestly, because Tim Roth, I think, would have made the movie a little too creepy. I mean, Tim Roth he's kind of like Willem Dafoe, where he's very, very good at playing a bad guy. And even when he's playing the good guy, you kind of look at him and go, he would make a very good bad guy. So I think it would have been a little too intense with Tim Roth here, working with these kids. I think he would have scared the kids, honestly. But Alan Rickman, you still get the sense that he has screen presence. He still has that kind of unsettling presence about him. But it's not enough to where you think that these kids would be terrified of him, because they are kind of nervous because he is a very mean teacher. But the thing that he's doing with his voice, the thing that he's doing with his performance, because he the best word I can use to describe his performance is precise. He gives a very precise performance. I mean, you get the sense that every single word out of his mouth is carefully calculated, is carefully planned, and he is taking great care in how to say it. Which is one thing that Alan Rickman adds to the character that's I also think has helped the character grow such a widespread fan base. Partially due to J.K. Rowling's writing, and partially due to Alan Rickman's performance. And probably my favorite performance in the movie is Richard Harris as Dumbledore. Now, when I said that this movie has a great cast, I was not joking. And it's kind of like The Lord of the Rings, where every single character in the movie is just perfect for the role. Just perfect. I mean, I cannot imagine anyone else in any of these roles. And that was especially the case I felt with Richard Harris, because in the books, Dumbledore is a kindly, wizened wizard who at the same time can exude a lot of power and presence when he needs to. And I think Richard Harris finds just that right balance between the two, because you do get the sense that he is a very welcoming soul, but at the same time, when he needs to, you really get the sense that he can command hundreds. You really get the sense that he can handle himself. And the thing that I found is that it's not always made obvious. I mean, it's very subtle. I mean, his moments of power are very understated, but not understated enough that you wouldn't really pick them up. Not understated enough to where you wouldn't think that they were there. Now, you know that this guy has a lot of power, both in terms of his ability to cast spells, but also in terms of his character and how strong his character is. You really do get that sense, but it's not in your face. He does not shift from one to the other at the drop of a hat. Like I said, he just finds that really perfect balance between the two. And I will probably get to this in the reviews of the later movies, but I'm actually really sad that Richard Harris was only in two of these Harry Potter movies, because like all the rest of them, like all the rest of the cast, in my opinion, he was just perfect for the role. I mean, it was just one of those cases where the character from the book, to me at least, just leapt onto the screen. And in this case, my favorite character from the book just leapt onto the screen. I mean, when I looked on screen, yeah, I was aware Richard Harris was playing him, but I saw Dumbledore. Dumbledore was there on screen. Straight out of the book. So bravo to the cast. And what I think really helps with this Harry Potter movie is that it's aware that it's a children's movie, but at the same time, it also strikes a balance with the darker elements, and I think that's partially to do with the director Chris Columbus, and Chris Columbus, he specializes in this type of movie. I really do think that a large part of the success behind this series is due to him. A large part of why this series is even here in the first place is due to him, because he started it. He directed the first two Harry Potter movies. He was the one that insisted that the cast be British. I mean, that he didn't want to Americanize it, even though he himself is American. So I think it was not only do I think Chris Columbus made a few bold moves in the making of this movie, but but I also think his unique blend of almost Spielberg-esque um, uh, of of blending a kid-friendly whimsy with intrigue, and I think that really works for these earlier Harry Potter stories, which are much lighter in tone than where it eventually ends up. Because when you read the first few Harry Potter stories, they are fairly family friendly. I mean, there aren't really a whole lot of casualties, um, but and when they're dark, they can be dark when they need to be, but but for the most part, they are very whimsically family friendly. One of the biggest triumphs of this movie is that it does not talk down to its audience. It does not it is not condescending. It knows its audience, but at the same time, it is not treating its audience like idiots. The trap that a lot of other children's movies fall into nowadays is that they feel the need to subject themselves to the lowest common denominator of comedy, the lowest common denominator of storytelling. It's it's very painful at times to see the condition that children's movies have fallen into nowadays. So so I forgot to take my glasses off. um, that's really what another thing that this movie does very well is that it takes its audience seriously. It offers up mystery elements that are not too stupid for adults, but at the same time are not too complicated for children. So that's just another thing that this movie balances very well, and that's really what a lot of this movie boils down to is that it finds a lot of balance between a lot of its different elements. And another probably one of the most visible benefits to this is that it does a very good job of introducing you to this fantastical world. This, I mean, it lets you live in this world. It lets you breathe in this world. It and it and it familiarizes you with all of these different ideas, all of these different concepts, all these different pastimes um, that go with the Harry Potter world, like the Quidditch, like the classes, like the locations. In fact, one of the most visibly striking shots is when the students are rowing in on the boats, and you see Hogwarts, the actual school, in all its glory. Granted, it's dark, but you see this very gorgeous-looking castle. It's huge, and you really do get the sense that you are in for a ride. You really do get the sense that that this is a magical movie. This is a promising start to a potential franchise, and that is all encompassed in that one shot, at least in my opinion. If I were to think of a flaw with this movie, is that it does have a tendency to get sidetracked. Now, this is not a problem for a fan of the book, but for general audiences, it does lose some of its momentum at times, because a lot of the time it is so wrapped up in showing you this world and showing you all the different aspects of this world that it spends actually a little too much time for the uninitiated. for someone who does not care about this series, for someone who is completely unfamiliar with this material, then it is easy to conceive someone going, enough with the Quidditch, enough with the classes, enough with the students sitting around eating. Now, this is not a huge problem, but it is just something you notice, something that really can prove to be a small detriment when talking about the storytelling, because the main plot of this movie is just kind of interspersed in what eventually amounts to a year for these characters, a normal school year. I mean, the main plot revolving the Philosopher's Stone is just kind of interspersed throughout this year. So for the most part, you'll have these scenes where the characters are being introduced to this world, and on occasion it may cut to the characters finding out something new about the plot, or asking another question about the plot. So it's really just that. That's really what the structure of this boils down to. And it's not unstructured. I mean, it does have a 3-act structure, but the second act, taking place around the school, may prove to be a little boring for those who do not care for this type of story, for this type of genre. But really, that's the only major problem that I have with that movie, and for fans, it's not even a problem at all, or at least not much of one, because, like I said, the acting is very good. The world building aspect is very good. Some of the CGI hasn't really aged well, but what can you do? The characters are very likable. The appeal reaches out to both children and adults reasonably well, and it's just an all-around great family movie. It's just an all-around very commendable introduction to what eventually becomes a huge film and literary phenomenon, and deservedly so, because this is a good story. These are good characters, and you do want to see these characters succeed. You don't want anything bad to happen to them, and I don't really think it would be prudent for people to forget that this is the film that started it all. And as far as introductions go, this does a very, very good job. So yeah, that's really all I got for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Hopefully, at least, next one up is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So I will talk to you later.